Okay, let's unpack this. You might instinctively think that walking on your heels is always the most efficient way to get around, right? I mean, it's what most of us do every single day, especially in our modern shoes, and it just feels like the natural default human setting for getting from point A to point B. It's almost a given, isn't it?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is that the reality is far more complex than a simple yes or no. The concept of efficiency in walking isn't a single universal truth that applies equally across all situations. Instead, it's highly contextual. If we, delve into the intricate world of biomechanics, we discover that walking on the balls of your feet or even landing more midfoot can actually be more energy efficient under specific conditions.
Really, more efficient.
Yes. And conversely, the familiar heel strike walking that you mentioned, which the majority of us instinctively adopt, particularly when wearing our cushioned footwear, can surprisingly sometimes lead to a degree of wasted energy.
Huh. Wasted energy.
Exactly. So our deep dive today is all about dissecting exactly when heel striking offers genuine efficiency, when it doesn't, and how a remarkable array of factors, from the very shoes we choose to wear to our historical context and even the terrain beneath our feet, can completely flip the script on what's considered the best or most effective stride for human movement.
Absolutely. It's incredible to think about. Today, we're not just scratching the surface. We're taking a deep plunge into your sources, exploring everything from cutting-edge walking biomechanics and advanced shoe technology all the way back to fascinating historical gaits. Our mission is to uncover the surprising, often counterintuitive truths about how we move through the world. We aim to give you a powerful shortcut to understanding the intricate mechanics of your own stride and perhaps even provide a fresh, new perspective on the footwear you choose. Get ready to have your deeply ingrained assumptions about walking completely turned upside down. So let's begin at the most fundamental level with the human foot in its most natural, unadorned state, barefoot. For many of us, it's a deeply held belief that heel strike is universally the most efficient way to walk. After all, it's what we mostly do when we're in shoes, right? And it feels instinctual, like a basic programmed function. Why would we question something that feels so natural?
And that's a perfectly logical starting assumption, especially considering how most of us navigate our paved modern world. However, your sources reveal a more nuanced picture. While heel striking is indeed prevalent, especially with shoes, walking on the balls of your feet or even your midfoot can actually be more energy efficient in certain contexts.
Okay, certain context being the key phrase there.
Precisely. The heel strike that feels so familiar, conversely, often tends to dissipate some energy. It's a critical distinction, and we're going to systematically break down what those certain contexts are, starting with a granular look at how a heel strike actually functions when you're completely barefoot or wearing very minimal footwear.
Okay, so let's truly deconstruct that barefoot heel strike. When you're walking without a shoe, or perhaps in a super thin minimalist sandal, what's the precise sequence of events at the moment of initial impact? What's happening underneath the surface?
Well, imagine your foot hitting the ground. When you land squarely on your heel, particularly without any cushioning layers, the initial impact energy isn't absorbed or stored very effectively. It travels quite directly and rapidly up your skeletal chain.
Ouch. Sounds jarring.
It can be. Think of it like a series of miniature shock waves extending from your calcaneus, your heel bone, up through your tibia, then your femur, and finally into your spine. What's crucial to understand here is that the heel itself, being primarily a robust bone encased in a protective fat pad, doesn't possess much elastic property. It acts more like a solid, unyielding point of contact.
Not like a spring.
Exactly, not like a spring designed for energy return. Your powerful calf muscles and the incredibly resilient Achilles tendon, which are absolutely vital for generating forward propulsion, only truly begin to engage and perform their elastic work once your weight has fully shifted forward from that initial rigid heel contact. So there's a slight, almost imperceptible delay, a moment where the foot is essentially just absorbing a mechanical jolt and transitioning the weight, rather than immediately contributing to forward momentum through elastic recoil.
Now, here's where it truly becomes fascinating and counterintuitive. Even with that initial somewhat jarring impact and the lack of immediate elastic energy return you just described, the sources tell us that at low speeds, heel walking can actually conserve effort. That sounds like a contradiction, especially after you mentioned wasted energy. How can something that wastes energy also conserve effort?
It absolutely appears counterintuitive, doesn't it? But there's a wonderfully clever biomechanical reason behind this paradox. At those slower, more leisurely walking speeds picture, a relaxed stroll through a park, enjoying the scenery, maybe window shopping.
Yeah, just ambling along.
Right. In that scenario, the heel functions less as a hard impact absorber and more as a passive support, or, as some biomechanists describe it, a kind of rolling wheel-like pivot. Instead of relying heavily on active muscular power to propel you forward, this particular gait skillfully leverages your skeletal alignment and the natural forces of gravity.
Ah, using physics to your advantage.
Pretty much. Your leg essentially acts like a long, inverted pendulum swinging from your hip. The heel, in this context, serves as the initial anchor point, allowing your body to smoothly roll forward over it, minimizing active muscle engagement. This allows you to conserve significant muscular effort by relying predominantly on the physics of bone structure and the gentle pull of gravity rather than constant strenuous muscle contractions. It's our body's ingenious way of coasting when speed isn't the priority, maximizing stability and minimizing fatigue.
So it's like our body has an automatic cruise control for low speeds. Clever.
Mm.
But what happens when we need to pick up the pace or transition into running?
Yeah.
That's where the forefoot or midfoot strike really comes into its own, right? That's when the spring mechanism kicks in.
Precisely. If we now shift our focus to forefoot or midfoot walking, particularly when barefoot or in minimal shoes, the biomechanical paradigm changes quite dramatically. When you land on the ball of your foot or the midfoot, you immediately engage a profoundly different energy storage and return system.
Okay.
This type of landing allows your body's natural elastic structures,
Yep.
specifically your powerful Achilles tendon and the intricate arch of your foot, supported by its network of ligaments and plantar fascia, to actively store elastic energy.
Mm.
Think of these structures not just as simple connectors, but as highly efficient biological springs and shock absorbers. As they stretch under load, they capture kinetic energy.
Ah, so that's the spring action you mentioned earlier. That stored energy is key for more dynamic movement.
It absolutely is the central mechanism. This captured energy isn't just dissipated, it's dynamically released with remarkable efficiency during the push-off phase of your stride. Instead of the initial impact energy simply vanishing, it's actively captured and then returned, much like a stretched rubber band snapping back.
Nice analogy.
This reduces the overall muscular work required for each step, leading to a significantly lower metabolic cost per stride. This is why, when humans naturally run or even march at a brisk, purposeful pace, our bodies instinctively gravitate towards a midfoot or forefoot strike. It is unequivocally the most metabolically efficient way to achieve faster, more dynamic, and more agile movement, allowing us to cover ground quickly with less muscular fatigue.
This makes me wonder about our long history as a species. So what does all this mean for how humans evolved? Were we always heel strikers, or did our ancestors adapt their gaits depending on the environment and the task at hand?
This is where the evolutionary angle adds another fascinating layer to our understanding. Humans, it turns out, evolved with an incredible capacity for gait versatility, optimized for specific tasks. We essentially developed a dual gait system.
Two modes, basically.
Exactly. A predominantly heel strike for efficient walking and a powerful forefoot strike for high-performance running. Our bodies are masterpieces of adaptability. Interestingly, even today, populations who live a significant portion of their lives barefoot often still naturally heel strike while walking on firm, flat ground, much like us.
Oh, really? Even barefoot populations?
Yes, but, and this is key, they demonstrate an astonishing innate ability to instantly adjust their foot strike based on the terrain. On softer, more uneven surfaces like loose sand or rocky trails, they readily shift to a midfoot or forefoot strike.
Makes sense. Better grip, less shock.
Precisely. It offers superior stability, better grip, and significantly less jarring impact. Evolutionarily speaking, our prominent heels essentially act as an extension of our effective leg length when walking, allowing for those longer, more pendulum-like strides that are remarkably energy efficient for covering vast distances at a moderate, sustained pace.
That's a truly deep dive into the barefoot foot. So, to synthesize all this foundational knowledge for our listeners, what's the clearest, most practical rule of thumb for understanding barefoot walking efficiency?
Okay, the rule of thumb for barefoot or minimal footwear is quite precise and easy to remember. If you are engaged in slow, leisurely walking on relatively flat and firm ground, a heel strike is generally more efficient.
Got it. Slow and steady, heel wins.
Right, because it primarily leverages your skeletal structure and the pendulum physics of your leg for passive support, minimizing active muscle engagement. However, if you are fast walking, running, or traversing uneven, soft, or challenging terrain, a midfoot or forefoot strike becomes undeniably more efficient.
Speed or tricky ground, go for the midfoot, forefoot.
Exactly. This is due to its ability to harness the elastic, spring-like action of your tendons and arch, effectively capturing and returning energy, which drastically reduces the muscular effort needed for dynamic and propulsive movement. It always boils down to context. Matching your gait instinctively to the task and the environment for optimal efficiency.
Okay, so we've thoroughly established the barefoot baseline and the nuanced efficiency of natural gaits. Fascinating stuff. But what happens when we introduce a true game changer? Modern shoe technology. Specifically, let's talk about the thick-soled, highly elastic shoes that dominate the market today, exemplified by models like the Brooks Glycerin Max. Does all that previous discussion about heel strike inefficiency just go completely out the window, or does the equation fundamentally shift?
That's an incredibly sharp observation, and it brings us to a pivotal point where technology fundamentally redefines biomechanics. Your sources, and indeed modern research, explicitly confirm that heel striking with these thick, highly elastic soles like those found in many maximal cushioning shoes can actually improve efficiency compared to barefoot heel striking.
Wow. Okay, that's a big reversal.
It is a significant reversal of our earlier understanding. These shoes have been engineered to make heel striking not just tolerable, but potentially even more efficient than a barefoot, midfoot, or forefoot strike under certain conditions.
So how does this magic happen?
Mm.
In barefoot walking, as we discussed, the heel doesn't store much energy. What transforms it into an energy capture point in these super cushioned shoes? How does the shoe foam actually work its magic?
It's all about advanced material science and clever engineering. In barefoot walking, your heel, being primarily bone and a fat pad, has very limited elastic properties to store and return energy. It absorbs but doesn't rebound much.
Right, it's just there.
Pretty much. However, in these modern thick-soled shoes, the advanced foam in the midsole, often a complex blend of EVA, TPU, or specialized proprietary compounds like Brooks's DNA Loft V3, is specifically designed to compress significantly when you land on your heel. This compression isn't just passive absorption, it's a dynamic process where the foam deforms under the impact, and in doing so, it acts like an artificial spring.
Ah, an artificial spring.
Exactly. Instead of letting that impact energy dissipate uselessly up your skeletal system, the foam actively captures and stores a substantial portion of it within its compressed structure.
So if I'm picturing this correctly, the shoe's foam is essentially acting like a highly responsive, squishy external tendon for your heel, which is otherwise just bone and fat. That's a brilliant analogy that really clarifies the mechanism.
That's a fantastic way to frame it, and it precisely captures the essence of what's happening. The shoe isn't so much overriding as it is augmenting and rerouting the natural energy return system.
Augmenting, okay.
It's doing precisely what your Achilles tendon and arch do in a forefoot strike, storing elastic energy and then releasing it. These specialized foams are engineered not just to cushion, but to deform under pressure and then rebound with remarkable energy return. So when you heel strike, you heavily load the rear midsole, compressing it dramatically. Then as your weight rolls forward through your stride, that compressed foam rapidly expands, returning a significant portion of the stored energy.
Giving you a little boost.
A significant boost, actually. It actively assists your push-off, effectively mimicking the natural spring action of your Achilles tendon, but shifting that entire mechanism from your biological structures to the engineered heel sole system of the shoe itself.
That raises a question, though. Could there be any downsides to relying on this artificial tendon long term? Does it weaken our natural springs?
That's a brilliant question, and one that much research is currently exploring. There's ongoing debate around whether constantly relying on this external spring might subtly alter natural foot strength or proprioception over time, but the immediate performance benefits, particularly for endurance activities, are undeniable.
So this technology fundamentally changes the rulebook. Does this mean the efficiency crossover point we discussed earlier, where forefoot striking became more efficient, now it shifts dramatically, maybe even reverses itself?
It absolutely creates a significant efficiency crossover, redefining what we once considered optimal. In a barefoot or minimalist shoe scenario, forefoot striking generally offers superior metabolic efficiency due to the natural elastic recoil. However, with high-stack maximal cushion shoes, heel striking effectively starts to borrow the shoe's midsole rebound as an incredibly effective artificial spring.
Borrowing the rebound, I like that.
It fundamentally alters the energetic equation, effectively leveling the playing field and often giving heel strikers a distinct advantage in these specific shoes. This shift is a key reason why you now observe many elite marathoners and ultra-distance runners, especially those competing in modern super shoes.
Those really thick ones.
Yes, with their combination of thick elastic foams and often carbon fiber plates, they actually prefer a controlled heel to midfoot strike rather than a pure forefoot strike. They've learned, often through extensive biomechanical analysis and trial, to strategically leverage the shoe's technology to maximize their performance and minimize fatigue over long distances.
Now, here's another layer that's truly thought-provoking. These shoes don't just store and return energy, they fundamentally change your entire stride, offering a hidden advantage in what's called stride economy. How does this work, and what does stride economy even mean for our listeners?
That's a crucial distinction. Stride economy essentially refers to how efficiently your body uses oxygen and energy to cover a given distance. The better your stride economy, the less energy you expend per mile or kilometer.
Okay, so less fuel burned for the same distance.
Exactly. And a heel strike with these thick, resilient soles facilitates significantly longer, smoother strides with remarkably less active calf loading compared to a barefoot equivalent. The key here is the synergistic combination of the responsive foam and what's known as rocker geometry.
Rocker geometry.
Yeah.
Like a rocking chair.
Kind of. Imagine the sole of the shoe having a subtle upward curve, much like the bottom of a rocking chair. This rocker geometry, combined with the springy foam, transforms the foot into a highly efficient rolling lever. This design reduces the need for your ankle muscles to actively push off with as much muscular force. The shoe essentially does much of the rolling work for you.
So the shoe helps you roll forward.
Precisely. The net effect for the runner or walker is a significantly lower metabolic cost per step and per kilometer. This means you're using less oxygen and glucose to maintain a given pace, which is an invaluable advantage, particularly in endurance events where conserving energy is paramount. It allows for sustained speed with less fatigue.
So if I'm truly grasping this, the fundamental relationship between heel strike and efficiency that we observe in barefoot movement gets almost completely flipped on its head once we introduce these modern cushioned shoes. It's a complete paradigm shift.
You've absolutely articulated the core transformation. To reiterate, in a barefoot context, a heel strike generally leads to less efficient energy utilization, whereas a forefoot strike is more efficient thanks to the body's natural elastic recoil mechanisms. But with the advent of max cushion shoes, such as the Brooks Glycerin Max and its counterparts, a heel strike can regain substantial efficiency.
Because the shoe's doing the springing.
Exactly. This is precisely because the specialized foam in the sole acts as an external, highly responsive tendon, diligently storing and releasing energy. It effectively transforms the heel, which is otherwise a somewhat inefficient point of contact for energy return, into a surprisingly effective energy capture and propulsion mechanism. It's a profound testament to how human ingenuity and design can dramatically augment and even re-engineer our natural biomechanics.
Okay, now let's execute a complete shift in gears, moving from cutting-edge shoe technology to a fascinating historical example that truly grounds this discussion in a different context. You, our listener, also asked about cowboys, and it's a remarkably astute historical observation that their iconic, often stylized walk involved a very pronounced heel strike. It's an image synonymous with the Old West.
Yes, absolutely, your observation is spot on. Cowboys almost certainly walk more heel strike dominant than midfoot or forefoot, and it's much more than just an aesthetic choice or a movie stereotype. There are multiple, deeply practical and intertwined reasons for this distinctive gait.
Ah, so it wasn't just for show.
Not at all. These reasons are all firmly rooted in their specialized footwear, the often challenging terrain they traversed, and the specific functional demands of their rugged lifestyle. It's a compelling case study in how a specific environment and the tools adopted within it can profoundly shape human movement patterns.
Let's start with the most obvious and perhaps foundational reason: the boots themselves. How did the design of traditional cowboy boots essentially dictate and enforce their particular stride?
The design of traditional cowboy boots was, without a doubt, a colossal forcing factor for their gait. These boots typically featured relatively high heels, often ranging between 1 and 2 inches.
Quite high, yeah.
Coupled with exceptionally rigid, inflexible leather soles and quite frequently a narrow, pointed toe box. That prominent, often angled heel isn't merely for aesthetics or to aid in securing the foot in a stirrup. It is designed to catch the ground first when you take a step. Critically, unlike the cushioned, often rockered soles we find in modern athletic shoes that gently encourage a smooth, rolling transition onto the midfoot.
Yeah, we just talked about.
Exactly. A stiff, unyielding leather sole offers no such biomechanical encouragement. It's quite unforgiving and unbending. The result is that cowboys landed on the heel almost by structural necessity. Their footwear quite literally dictated and enforced their initial foot strike pattern, making a heel-first landing virtually unavoidable.
And beyond the sheer mechanics of the boots, what about the practicalities of their daily lives? Think about the vast and varied terrain they covered, their demanding lifestyle. How did these environmental and occupational factors further contribute to this heel-dominant walk?
Well, consider the typical terrain a cowboy would encounter on a daily basis. Vast expanses of hard-packed dirt trails, often baked solid by the sun, undulating grasslands, or the rough wooden floors of a saloon or ranch house.
Pretty unforgiving surfaces.
Very much so. On these unyielding surfaces, a heel-first strike offered demonstrably superior stability. The protruding heel could subtly dig into softer ground for traction or provide a wider, more stable point of contact on hard surfaces, preventing the boot sole from sliding. A crucial consideration when moving among excitable cattle or on uneven ground near horses.
Ah, stability makes sense.
And attempting a forefoot or midfoot strike in those incredibly stiff, unyielding leather soles would have been not only profoundly uncomfortable, but also highly inefficient. There's no built-in cushioning, no elastic rebound in that rigid leather to make a springy, dynamic gait metabolically worthwhile. It would have just resulted in jarring impacts and rapid fatigue. The boots simply weren't designed for a springy toe-off.
So it really boils down to a fundamental trade-off, doesn't it? It was a question of what was most practical and necessary for their arduous work, a balance of stability and functional needs, rather than purely optimizing for metabolic efficiency in the modern sense we think of today.
Exactly right. For the specific kind of endurance walking cowboys undertook, think epic multi-day cattle drives across immense distances, or the relentless day-to-day work around a ranch, a heel strike gait actually conserves significant muscular effort.
Conserved effort again. Interesting.
Yes, because when constrained by those stiff, high-heeled boots, with the heel serving as the primary pivot point, the leg essentially functioned as a long, energy-efficient pendulum swinging from the hip. The inherent stiffness of the boot's heel and shank meant that the skeleton, rather than the active muscles, carried a greater proportion of the load and absorbed much of the impact.
Letting the bones do the work.
In large part, yes. This dramatically reduced the active muscular work required for each step. This made it a remarkably energy-efficient mode of locomotion for slow to moderate walking speeds. Cowboys weren't attempting to break speed records or run marathons. Their primary objective was to cover extensive ground at steady, sustainable paces, often for hours on end, and the heel-striking gait, facilitated by their boots, was perfectly suited for that demanding job.
It's truly fascinating how a functional necessity, born out of their environment and tools, can evolve to become such a distinct, almost iconic cultural signature of a group. It
Wow.
goes beyond mere utility.
It absolutely did. The cowboy boot gait transcended mere practicality to become a defining cultural signature. A characteristic long stride, an upright posture, often a slightly stiff-leg heel strike, frequently reinforced by the unmistakable resonant click of the boot heel on wood or stone.
Yeah, you can almost hear it.
Exactly. That auditory cue itself became part of the identity. This historical adaptation stands in stark contrast to, say, the gaits of barefoot herders in parts of Africa. Their movements evolved to be much more midfoot or forefoot dominant, optimized for minimal footwear, utilizing the springy efficiency of their tendons for agility and efficiency across varied natural terrains where stealth and soft ground navigation were paramount. Each gait is a profound and perfect adaptation to its unique environment, tools, and cultural demands.
So to truly reinforce that main point for our listeners, what's the ultimate concise takeaway about why cowboys adopted and maintained their distinct heel-dominant walk?
Okay, the summary is crystal clear. Cowboys walked heel strike dominant due to a powerful confluence of three primary factors. Firstly, boot mechanics, where the design of their traditional footwear literally forced a heel-first landing. Secondly, task efficiency, as his gait conserved muscle effort for the prolonged, steady-pace walking required for ranching and cattle drives. And thirdly, the terrain they commonly encountered, hard, unforgiving surfaces where stability was key. Their specialized footwear essentially locked them into a heel-strike walking pattern, turning the rigid leather heel into the primary energy interface with the ground, a stable, unyielding point of contact rather than a springy, energy-returning mechanism.
That was an incredibly comprehensive exploration of the cowboy walk, delving into its practical and cultural roots. Really interesting. But there's an even more surprising and fascinating layer to the cowboy walk that connects directly to another crucial aspect of their lifestyle, and it's one of the most unexpected insights from our sources. You, our listener, astutely suggested it might also have helped with aiming their gun because their walk was more gimbalized. And I have to say, that is a truly brilliant and perceptive observation.
It truly is a fascinating angle, and I agree, a brilliant insight. And what's more, it makes absolute biomechanical sense. A heel strike gait, particularly when combined with those incredibly stiff cowboy boots, could indeed contribute to making a cowboy's walk more gimbalized.
Be gimbalized, like a camera stabilizer.
Exactly like that concept. And that in turn would have offered a significant practical advantage for maintaining accuracy when aiming a gun while moving. It's an almost accidental engineering marvel born from the interplay of human movement and specific tools.
So let's dig into this gimbal effect. How exactly does this phenomenon work in the context of walking? What's happening biomechanically to create this remarkable vertical stabilization of the upper body?
Okay, to visualize this, think about the mechanics. In a heel strike gait, especially when the foot is rigidly encased in those stiff boots, most of the leg's motion is a relatively controlled, almost wooden pendulum swing originating from the hip joint. Crucially, the ankle and foot flex far less than they would in a more natural, springy, forefoot dominant gait. This restricted movement is largely because the stiff boot severely limits dorsiflexion.
Toes up towards the shin.
Right, and plantar flexion.
Toes pointing down.
Correct. This significant reduction in ankle and foot movement directly reduces the characteristic up and down springing or oscillation of the torso that you would typically observe with a more dynamic, forefoot-driven gait. The net effect is that the torso and upper body remain remarkably more level and stable, much like an object mounted on a mechanical gimbal system that is specifically designed to isolate it from external rotational movements, keeping it steady even if the base is moving erratically.
So essentially, their lower body, constrained by the boots and the heel strike, was absorbing those subtle micromovements and preventing them from traveling up the chain, allowing for a much more stable upper body. That has to be an incredible, almost life-saving benefit for a cowboy who might need to draw and aim quickly in a tense situation.
Absolutely. Less vertical torso bounce directly translates into significantly steadier hands and, critically, a far more stable seat picture for aiming. Think of a professional camera operator utilizing a Steadicam. That elaborate rigging system ensures the camera remains incredibly smooth and stable, even as the operator walks, runs, or navigates uneven terrain.
Yeah, the camera just floats.
In a remarkably similar way, the cowboy's lower body, effectively constrained by the boots and propelled by that heel strike pendulum, absorbed and dampened many of those micro movements and oscillations. This kept the upper frame, their torso, shoulders, and arms, exceptionally stable. This stability meant they could keep their revolver or rifle aimed with remarkable precision on target while advancing, maneuvering, or even just standing.
Wow.
Which was an absolutely crucial, often life or death advantage in the close encounters common in their line of work. It's an involuntary form of biomechanical precision.
It makes perfect, almost cinematic sense how this practical, life-saving benefit would have contributed to the iconic, almost stylized cowboy walk that we so often see romanticized in Western films. It wasn't just about looking tough, it was fundamentally about being effective and ready.
Exactly. This unique combination of gait and its gun aiming efficiency likely played a significant role in reinforcing and even shaping that stylized image. A deliberate, measured, slow heel strike gait characterized by minimal upper body sway, projecting an unmistakable aura of control, steadiness, and combat readiness. And it provides a striking contrast when compared to other historical gaits we might consider. For example, think of a Native American hunter moving through the wilderness in soft moccasins.
Totally different movement.
Completely. Their gait would be far more midfoot or forefoot dominant, optimized for near-silent movement, incredible stealth, and acute terrain sensitivity, a completely different set of priorities than firearm stability. It truly highlights how culturally specific tools, environmental pressures, and occupational demands profoundly shaped human movement throughout history.
This truly is mind-blowing. So we're essentially talking about a human gimbal effect that was almost accidentally engineered or optimized through their very specific lifestyle and footwear?
That is the perfect term for it, a human gimbal. The heel strike, when combined with those stiff-soled boots, didn't just stabilize their walk, it actually created a powerful mechanical stabilization of the upper body. In stark contrast, a forefoot or midfoot strike naturally results in a more dynamic spring gait, which, while metabolically efficient for speed, inherently introduces more vertical bounce and therefore more variability in aiming.
So springy equals bouncy, stiff equals steady.
In this context, yes, cowboys, whether they consciously realized it or not, inadvertently engineered their entire walking system, their boots, their gait, their posture, into a highly effective form of biological image stabilization. So, to underscore the point, their heel-first, stiff-legged cowboy gait wasn't simply a matter of fashion or boot design. It crucially created a gimbalized, remarkably steady upper body, directly enhancing their gun-aiming accuracy while on the move. It's an incredible, almost poetic example of adaptive biomechanics where form, function, and environment converged. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Wow, what an absolutely incredible journey we've taken through your sources. From dissecting the basic biomechanics of our feet in their most natural state, to exploring cutting-edge shoe technology, and even uncovering the surprising historical adaptations of figures like cowboys, it's unequivocally clear that the best or most efficient way to walk is far from a one-size-fits-all answer. My initial simplistic assumption about heel striking being universally efficient feels so incredibly narrow and incomplete now.
If we connect all these fascinating threads to the bigger picture, what truly stands out is the profound and undeniable influence of context. Whether it's your chosen speed, the specific terrain you're navigating, the type of footwear you select, or even your historical profession and its unique demands, all of these factors completely dictate not only walking efficiency, but also profoundly shape how you interact with your entire environment.
It really depends.
It really, really depends. It's an extraordinary testament to human adaptability, showcasing how our tools, our environment, and even something as seemingly mundane as a boot can profoundly sculpt our very movement patterns and capabilities.
So the next time you slip on your favorite pair of shoes, or even just take a mindful walk around the block, we genuinely hope you'll feel a newfound appreciation for the incredible, intricate engineering of your own body. And perhaps you'll also gain a fresh perspective on the surprising and often hidden ways. Everything from a thick-soled, maximal cushion running shoe to a rugged traditional cowboy boot dramatically impacts how you move through the world. It's so much more than just getting from here to there. It's a dynamic, ever-evolving interplay of physics, biology, and even cultural history.
And this deep dive truly raises an important and provocative question for all of us to ponder. If even our walking gait can be optimized for something as incredibly specific and crucial as gun aiming in a historical context, what other subtle biomechanical adaptations might we be making in our modern lives without even consciously realizing it? Perhaps these adaptations are silently influenced by our increasingly sedentary desks, the way we constantly hunch over our phones, or even just our daily commutes in an increasingly static world. It truly makes you wonder how our modern tools and environments are subtly but powerfully sculpting our bodies and influencing our movements in ways we have yet to fully comprehend.